Hello, and thanks for looking back at the channel. And here I am at the Triang Super 4 main layout, and this video is a little bit of a continuation from last week. There's the R.450, the early 1960s L1 in BR green, with its great blackened steel wheels and powerful magnesion. That is actually pulling my fairly long fuel train, and it doesn't seem to be struggling at all, even though it's 440. Not a huge amount of pickup or drive wheel contact with the track, but making a great job of this fuel train. Now here's some diamonds coming up. The first one just there, no real hesitation, and it is a fairly slow speed. I've set it up over the branch line, and the final diamond on the inner double track loop. So for an old 1960s model, it's handling all the points and diamonds nicely, and I'm really having great fun operating this, and it looks good with these bright Hornby 00 wagons at the back. Now, I talked about how long Triang and Triang Hornby could make mouldings, body mouldings, tender mouldings last a little bit last week, and someone pointed out to me in the comments that the L1 body went on to become the Fowler. Here it is, R.450. Now this Fowler 2P, I've got this out of storage and recommissioned it, and it's going beautifully. It's rather similar to the Southern L1 from last week, so it's got the nickel plated wheels, slightly quieter running than the old R.450, but it looks good. And I've got it hauling a couple of maroon Hornby 00 suburban coaches today. A very nice livery, black LMS. Just look at that go by there, beautiful model. So in a minute I thought we'd take a little break from the running and go to the workbench and have a look at a few different uses of mouldings, particularly in this case how Triang and Triang Hornby utilise this tender. And there may be more locos that used it, I don't know. I've just selected immediate ones from my collection and had a quick look through some of my books just to see what they did. Now I don't think this Fowler 2P was quite well accepted with people, as well as the L1. I think people really like the L1, but the 2P, they found a few things wrong with its scale, measurements, tender. So it might have been a case of Triang Hornby trying to make a new loco out of the parts bin and not being 100% successful. But as a toy train, it looks really good. It's got nice performance on the track, and I really do like these black livery LMS locos. Right, I'm going to pop over to the workbench now, and we'll have a look at the difference between the 2P and the L1 and a few tenders. Okay, well here I am over at the test layout and work area, and if I just pan around you can see I've got models pretty much all over the place. I do need to have a tidy up, things that I'm getting ready for future videos or I've run recently. So it gets to a point where there's just so much out that I have to just have a whole session putting things back in boxes or tidying them away. And just before we look at these items, I'd like to thank anyone who's recently subscribed to the channel or who's watched the channel videos. I really thank you for looking, and all the comments that you write back, I read them all, and I'm very interested to learn lots of new stuff, and I appreciate that some of the longer comments must take quite a bit of time to write, so it's really good to see them. But anyway, on with what I want to show you here. Just quickly, I've picked out 4 models. There's 5 on the table, but there's 4 different locos, so maybe really I don't think this is correct age-wise, but let's rearrange them slightly. Let's just put the 2 L1s together. So, as they say, occasionally in no particular order. Let's have a look. So this is probably the oldest loco on the mat. This is the early 60s L1, and shortly followed by this quite nice Dealey 3F. But what's in common about all these is this tender. So let's start with the Dealey. Now if I try and turn this, hopefully you can see, maybe it'll look better with the green. There's rivets on the side of that tender. It's really nicely detailed. Two different colours, obviously maroon for the Dealey and green for the BR Green L1, but the same moulding. You know, they're identical on the back, the coal load, the top, the front. This tender is already being used for two different locos. Open axle boxes, it's got the tension lock coupling on there, great stuff. Whoops. Now, moving everything all over the place. Let's get to this Southern L1. So we've gone from virtually 1960 through the 60s into the early 70s. This is 72, this model. Still got open axle boxes, but absolutely no rivet detail down the side. Now I've been looking in my Pat Hammond books, and I would imagine it's probably got to do with these big panel decals, or whatever they're called, because that white lining all the way through to the Southern and the number is one green panel, and I don't think you'd be able to fit that to anything with rivet detail. Same with the 2P, that LMS right from the red lining to the gold letters is all one big panel. Now, not quite so easy to see on the Sedinadan. It almost looks like the lining is separate and the what I believe to be yellowy gold numbering and lettering applied separately, but still no rivets. They've gone for good, I think. By the time we do get to 1976, Sedinadan, now I have got the box here, R.450. It's definitely 76 model because that's what it says on the instructions. They have closed off the axle boxes, but not pinpoint, still sleeve wheels under there, you know, harking back right to the 1960s. But I guess with Hornby trying to be a little bit more detail conscious, they just couldn't keep producing models with the open axle box tenders. So we got 4 different locos there, 2 versions of the L1, so 5 different models and 5 different versions of the same tender. So they've really made this tender moulding earn its money, haven't they? That's great work, and it's a good little tender. It looks good. So let's just let me just move the Sedinadan out of the way. I'll just gently move a couple of other locos because I want to concentrate on the 2 that we've got on the layout running, or had running just a minute ago. And let's take a look at them, because 1960s loco body moulding, here it is in 1973, and they've done their best to convert it into the Fowler 2P. Well, I think a few people probably thought it wasn't the greatest job, but it's another model to run on your layout, and everything's expensive when it was making new models back in those days. I think with CNC machines and CAD drawings, and you know, there's no draftsman sitting at boards nowadays when it comes to locos. It's all done on computer. They can even scan the original loco, and the computer will do all the work scaling everything down. But it was all done old school when this was made and this was made. So there were people making the tools, no computer aided cutting devices. It was all handmade and subsequently quite expensive for the time, so I think they like to get their money's worth. So here's what I can see they've done to this great L1 body shell to turn it into the Fowler. So I'm going to start with the other side of the loco, so I'll just reverse it. So on this side of the L1 there's a sort of canister here, whether that's an oiler or some sort of receptacle, maybe if you know you can tell me. Connected to pipework. Well, the pipework mostly is still here on the Fowler, but no, that's absent now, so that's been removed. But as far as I can see, the smoke box and the chimney are the same. Now, I don't think that is probably correct for this Fowler model, but they didn't change the L1 tooling there. So going along a bit, I think when we get to the cab, there's the main difference, the silhouette of the cab. So look at the area there by the cutout, and then look on the L1, you've got a window and a cutout, so quite a big change there. And a nice wire handrail incorporated on the 2P. And if I turn it so we can just look at the top, the 2P has got slightly different detail on the roof. There's these, don't know whether they're grab handles or vents or what, but there's another sort of roof vent there on the 2P that isn't on the L1. But funnily enough, the front windows in the cab, quite distinctive. There's a porthole and a cutout. They haven't been altered, so whether that's correct, I don't really know. I don't know enough about the real locos, but it's really quite easy to see that these started life, well, this certainly started life as this moulding. Safety valves and the whistle in exactly the same position, same pieces, mudguard splashers, whatever you call them, identical, and the steps. But it's a new model, isn't it? So anyone wanting a new model in 1973 who'd already got an L1 might consider a Fowler 2P, and the livery's great, isn't it? I love these Triang Hornby locos with the either the LMS or the NE livery on matte black. So I just thought it'd be interesting to take a look at these tenders. So I guess the main three differences, if I bring back the Sardinadan tender and pop just there, we've got the first iteration from very early 60s right up to 1976. A few subtle changes, but that's the moulding. And even if I turn it over, I mean, there's a lot of shiny varnish on these two, so the coal load does look a bit different, but I've had a look at it quite close and I think it's all the same moulding. Well, I hope you're a bit interested in seeing some of these items and my ideas about how Hornby, Triang Hornby have made best use of some of their mouldings. I think there's loads of other examples. But right now, we're coming to the end of the video, so before I say goodbye, I'll probably edit in a little bit more footage of these two locos going around the Super 4 main lines, and hopefully I'll find something on the table that I can show you in the next video. So until then, I will say goodbye.